The term Cold War refers to a situation of disagreement between countries that does not involve direct military action but is performed mainly by means of financial and political actions, propaganda, or acts of spying. The Cold War was ongoing political rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union and their respective allies that developed after World War II. The Cold War began after the surrender of Nazi Germany in 1945 when the UNASI alliance between the United States and Great Britain on the one hand and the Britain on the one hand and the Soviet Union on the other start to apart in the nations of Eastern Europe. The Soviet Union started to create left-wing government determined to protect against a possible ruin three from Germany. The Americans and the British were concerned about the possibility of prolonged Soviet domination in Eastern Europe. The Cold War was solidified by 1947 to 1948, when USA had brought certain Western countries under American influence and the Soviets had established openly communist regimes. Never, Nevertheless, there was very little use of weapons on battlefields during the Cold War. It was waged mainly on political, economic, and propaganda fronts and lasted until 1921. Socialism. Socialism is a variety of financial and social systems defined by common ownership of the means of manufacturing and self-management of employees, as well as the related political theories and movements. Social ownership can be public, collective, or equity ownership by citizens. There are many kinds of socialism, and there is no single definition illustrating all of them, with the common aspect of social ownership being shared by its different types. The term socialism was created by Henry de Saint-Simon, one of the founders of what would later be labeled utopian socialism. The term socialism is also attributed to Pierre Leroux and to Marie Roche Louis Raybaud in France, and to Robert Owen in Britain, who became one of the fathers of the cooperative movement. Capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system based on the private ownership of the means of production and their operation for profit. Characteristics central to capitalism include private property, capital accumulation with labor, voluntary exchange, a price system, and competitive markets. In a capitalism market, economic decisions making an investment are determined by every owner of wealth, property, or production ability in financial and capital markets, whereas price and the distribution of goods and services are mainly determined by competition in goods and service markets. It was Adam Smith who realized that mercantilism was not an influence for development and change, but a regressive regime that creates trade imbalance among countries and prevent them from moving forward. His free market concepts open up the world to capitalism. Now, for this part, I'm gonna interview my friend Ana Castro. Where did the Cold War take place?
In the United States and the Soviet Union mainly.
What countries were the world leaders during this period?
United States, China, and the now extinct Soviet Union.
What were the main causes of the Cold War?
The reasons for the Cold War were essentially ideological and political. On one hand, the Soviet Union financed and supported socialist revolutions and governments, while the United States supported and took the side of coups primarily in Africa and Latin America. The fact that both world powers wanted to implement their own forms of governments around the world led to major economic, social, and political conflicts, although it did not unleash a third war.
What are some of the consequences of the Cold War?
The Baltic states and some former Soviet republics achieved independence. The United States became the only superpower in the world. The United States and the Soviet Union accumulated large arsenals of atomic weapons and ballistic missiles. It reached the destructive conflicts of Vietnam and Korea. The Soviet Union collapsed due to its economic weakness. The Berlin Wall was demolished and the Warsaw Pact disintegrated.
What opinion did the general public have of the Cold War?
The government had different thoughts in mind, but the people were very terrified, since they didn't know what to expect. People were afraid that another war would emerge, since it had been a short time after World War II. No one was willing to lose more family or to see the destruction of their homes and towns.
Now I'm going to talk about my opinion. In my opinion, wars never led to something good. They always bring death, destructions, and the lack of respect and peace to our countries. If we want to make a real change on our world and leave a positive background to the future generations, we need to stop making conflicts that only lead up to economic, political, and social crisis. The change is in us, and the only way to make is through respect, peace, and diversity. Regarding to the topic of socialism and communism, I think that there is not a perfect way of government since each country and their citizens have different needs and responsibilities.